welcome to Concerned Citizens. I am your host here in Joshi, and that was a very formal intro I had there. It's still working. I hope you're going to judge me too hard on that. Right, so where to begin? Crazy morning we've all had, right? Mondays are usually the hardest day of the week, and it was proven it this morning, waking up to the devastating news of the Finsbury attack. What do we know so far? We know that the Finsbury attack suspect name is Darren Osborne. He is a van driver and he's a father of 4. Some news came out on BBC 56 minutes ago updating us on what's going on. So far, the man who is the suspect in question, Darren Osborne, has been arrested for driving a van into a group of worshippers close to a mosque in North London. One man who had taken ill before the attack began died, whilst there were about 9 others who were taken to hospital. The attack happened shortly before 12:20 on Monday, June 19th. Now, I'm sure lots of you have been keeping up to date with this. It's been circling around BBC non-stop. But I've just been looking at the media and the language they've been using towards this incident, and it's very interesting. So the BBC, I'll just read you a quick headline from them. Finsbury Park attack suspect named Darren Osborne. Whereas Sky News have gone for Finsbury Park attack, angry crowd pins down van driver. That's Sky News, that's their headline. And the Daily Mail, I know, you're already bracing yourselves for their headline. Finsbury Park terrorist, in inverted commas, was thrown out of a pub for cursing Muslims just 1 day before attack. As it emerges, dad of 4 who split from his partner 6 months ago did the school run on a Friday. There's so many things I could say about that headline. For starters, they're already painting this suspect, known suspect. I mean, there's enough evidence, I would say, that we can say this guy did it. But, let's not jump to conclusions. Let's respect the Daily Mail's very critical approach to this issue. They've used the words terrorist in inverted commas, which is insulting because this guy has been known beforehand. We've got quotes of him saying stuff like, "I'm going to kill all Muslims. I did my bit." That is a direct quote from what he said shortly after the police apprehended him. And the Daily Mail are just crazy when it's a non-brown perpetrator. They're painting him as everyday kind of guy who just, he had it just a little bit too much. He split from his wife. He's got 4 kids though. So, he's a father. He's a father. He knows best. And, some of the stuff the Daily Mail have said in this article is bizarre. They've bullet-pointed, father of 4 was born in Singapore, but grew up in West-super-Mare, Somerset, and now lives in Cardiff. How is this relevant to what he did? How is this relevant to giving the public vital information on a crime that was committed, a devastating crime, might I add? What I do think is great is some of the, I don't want to praise the Daily Mail too heavily here, but they did mention that members of the Muslim community pinned the suspect down and made sure that he didn't get away or hurt anyone else. And it was the imam who said, "Do not touch him, do not hurt him," which, credit to the Daily Mail for mentioning that. They actually wrote, imam and other worshippers pinned him down as he, the assailant, urged him to kill him, but they kept him there until arrested. Now, I wouldn't really recommend you guys reading it because it's just sensationalist, normal Daily Mail trash. But they did include a couple of quotes from some of the members of the Muslim community. Mahmoud told the BBC, "By God's grace we managed to surround him and protect him from any harm," which is great that the Daily Mail are mentioning Muslims saying kind of half-decent things, which goes against their normal death to America, crazy kind of Arab holding a sword in the air sort of depiction of what Muslims are. And another quote is, "We told them the situation," meaning the police officer. "He continued, we said, he is restrained, he mowed people down with a van. There is a mob attempting to hurt him. If you don't take him, God forbid, he might be seriously hurt." And again, this kind of... Now, my problem really isn't the Daily Mail with that quote. My problem is we are living in such a divided time right now, and it's scary. It must be scary for Muslims right now. It's scary for British people everywhere, especially in London. Manchester as well. It's terrifying for minorities, it's terrifying for Europeans after the whole Brexit. It's really uncertain times, and the problem is these sort of attacks from Darren Osborne, other attacks on the Muslim community, it just perpetuates what ISIS and other extremist groups want. They want to believe that Muslims and people in the West cannot coexist side by side. So these kind of attacks against Muslims are directly, not even indirectly, directly helping ISIS and their cause to try and isolate as many Western Muslims as possible. Now, this is a point which I'm sure many of you know. This is a point that has been made countless times. It's been made by bloody Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson is a bumbling idiot, and he has mentioned this in his previous statements. These attacks help radicalise British Muslims, and we seriously need to take a long look at real strategy to try and put an end to extremists and extremism happening in the Middle East, happening here. And we've had many people, including Corbyn, come out and criticise our foreign policies, which I know people are getting fed up with hearing. I'm getting fed up with hearing, but it is the truth. We do need to make sure that our involvement within the Middle East and other nations is not just bomb the crap out of them, destabilise the government, and kind of walk away, not really give a flying monkeys about what's going to happen, because that just leaves a huge pile of mess where you get these tiny group of very angry, radicalized people, building power, building force, and then trying to implement their own ideologies. And these ideologies are dangerous. We need to also look at our involvement with Saudi Arabia, because they are a nation with very extreme policies, very extreme beliefs. They believe in the same version of Islam or the same grotesque version of Islam as ISIS, and we consider them as our closest ally, and that's something we need to reconsider. That's something that the US need to reconsider. I don't want to see more videos of Trump doing some weird sword dances with the monarchs of Saudi Arabia. It's just very strange. And, how can we condemn a group of people and their barbaric actions towards us and people of their countries within Syria, Iraq, etc., Afghanistan, etc., and yet consider Saudi Arabia, who have committed numerous human rights violations, an ally? We've got Amber Rudd going on telly saying that it's great that we're selling arms to them and we're making billions off them, off their blood money, when it's just hypocritical, and that needs to be looked at. And another issue, before I move on to another topic, is the fact that after the horrendous Paris attacks, the thing that was trending on Twitter worldwide, and this is really upsetting, it must have been terrifying, was #KillAllMuslims. People have said this before, and you're going to hear a lot more rational, logical, left-leaning people saying you can't blame the actions of a small minority on an entire majority of the 1.6 billion Muslims. And for that to be trending on Twitter is scary, and it doesn't help the cause of stopping this extremist attacks. It doesn't stop extremism in the Middle East. It doesn't stop extremism here in our country, in the UK. So we need to stop trying to divide the nation, and this is up to the media and up to the politicians, and we need to start bringing people together and fighting this together rather than seeing these huge divisions between our society. Right, so moving on from that topic, I want to discuss something which caught my eye last week, and that is Rachel Riley quitting Sky Sports. Now, if you don't know Rachel Riley, she is the maths whiz from Countdown. She took over Carol Vorderman's role. Now, she was hired by Sky Sports, I think, beginning of the football season, which was around August time, and she was co-hosting the football commentary series Friday Night Football alongside Jeff Sterling. So, Rachel Riley, fantastic pundit. She knows her stuff. She loves the sports. I thought she was a great asset to Sky. The issue is the lead up to her quitting Sky. Now, some of you may not know that during a football game between West Ham and Spurs, Tottenham needed to win the game, challenge for the title. They lost 1-0. They should have won the game. The issue followed the loss, where Rachel Riley said on Sky, just a normal comment, "Oh, that was a proper bottle job by Tottenham." Now, Rachel received horrendous tweets from football fans, from Tottenham fans straight after. As the Telegraph reported, the seemingly innocuous comment riled up Spurs fans, who then appeared to lambast Riley across social media. And this is why we shouldn't have female pundits. One person tweeted at Riley, actually clueless is what they said. Riley was condemned for the outfit she wore on the show, with one Twitter user accusing her of looking as if she were about to head out to a nightclub in Ibiza. And I mean, some of the abuse she got on Twitter is just ridiculous, and this is a clear example of why sexism and misogyny is still very much present in our society. And it's happening to somebody who's on TV, who's commenting on Sky Sports, and it's something that irritates me, and it's something that I feel a lot of people don't get. I mean, I read one tweet which was, "Oh, this is just banter. If you can't accept that, then you're in the wrong business." Well, if Gary Neville or Jamie Carragher had said that comment, they would not have had gender-specific attacks on them. This is why personal abuse, as Rachel Riley said, is hideous. And for the record, I didn't say Spurs are a bottle job, but tonight's game was a test of nerves. I said the game was a bottle job. Not the same as calling the team a bottle job, as is being circulated. So Riley was quickly responding and trying to justify what she said, which is just complete and utter nonsense. That the fans are forcing a pundit who said a very nothing comment, and suddenly they're freaking out. Why? Because she's a woman. No? Like, if any other pundit said that, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have got the same amount of abuse specifying their gender, telling them the sport isn't for their gender. You know, this is just ridiculous that we're seeing this now. And Sky didn't help the situation by not putting Rachel Riley on the following week's show. Now, I don't know, maybe Rachel didn't want to, or she wasn't ready to go on TV, but I think the producers had something to do with it. Maybe they were just trying to make sure that fans return and no more abuses is met on Twitter. But either way, I'm ashamed that Sky didn't stand up for her and didn't stick up for Rachel Riley as their employer. They should have done a lot better than what they did. But credit to Gary Neville for coming out, because Rachel Riley did come out on the 15th of June, according to the Telegraph, and say that she was forced to leave Sky Sports after abuse from online trolls. And Gary Neville, another pundit and her ex-colleague now, called the response scandalous. He tweeted, "A scandalous response by a nothing comment, not helped by other presenters in the TV world sticking the knife in," which clearly shows that other male presenters weren't, again, supporting their colleague. They probably either washed their hands with it or just told her the same line that she was probably tweeted. "It's just banter, love. Why don't you just get used to it? If you can't handle it, then you're in the wrong place." You know, how many times have women heard that? Seriously. And we're just seeing this from one of the biggest TV channels in the country, in Europe, owned by one of the biggest conglomerates in the world, and it's present. Something needs to be done. But how do you stop this? How do you try and weed out these bigots, these pig-headed guys? Have to try and educate the young, eradicate any sort of prejudice from a young age, and that's how you get a generation who are a lot more accepting, a lot more understanding, and not oppressive. But of course we live in a patriarchal society, and this is going to be very hard. I don't have the answers, but at least we can try and point out this issue as an example of the wider issues, which is gender inequality and abuse at the workplace. And finally, before I say goodbye to you guys, I just want to make note of Frankie Boyle and the fact that he's back on BBC. He's got a new show called Frankie Boyle, The New World Order on BBC Two, and the first 2 episodes are available on iPlayer. Fantastic to see Frankie back. Fantastic to see a comedian who is left-wing and very politically aware allowed back on the BBC. And I mean, I'm sure the BBC are keeping their eyes on Frankie because he does like to push boundaries, but it seems like they're allowing him to be almost a political commentator. Yes, it's satirical, but at the same time it is bringing a lot of issues to the surface, and he is a great pundit for politics. If you read his articles in The Guardian, you will see how brilliant he is at writing, how brilliant he is at observation, and I highly recommend the show. It's a lot more tame than the usual Frankie Boyle spiel, but yeah, it's it's been pretty good so far. Anyway, thanks for listening. I'll be back next week talking about more of the weekly news. I do apologise if I've been a tad serious in this podcast. I'm really late right now, and I'm sat in the dark in my dining room. You know when you keep hearing noises around you, it kind of freaks you out. So yeah, I think I've gone a little bit crazy.